Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock.
We're back. We missed last week. I thought my computer bit it. We had a power outage while I was at work, and when I came home, it would not boot at all.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that. Like, Corona hit us where, our bread and butter is.
Yeah. We thought our computers were safe at least, but no. But obviously, I got it working again, and I should probably just leave it at that, so it sounds like I went in and I was like, man, I did all this like IT techie guy stuff
as opposed to hitting power like 5 times.
It reset my BIOS settings, and I'm the opposite of IT techie, so I don't know what they're supposed to be, so I had to fuck with them until I had almost given up and just thought it was dead, and I was like, looked it up and I was like, I'm gonna try this one more thing that I found, and it was the silver bullet. And it's like, oh, cool. So,
that's good. I was bummed, but I was also kind of excited because eventually I knew that meant you would get a new computer.
I just paid off my wife's the laptop I bought her for her birthday, so I'll probably will go start looking at getting a new computer. So that's still in the work, because the big thing is I want to be able to play games.
Play the best shit. The new titles.
I miss being able to play games on my computer.
Yeah. It's funny, like you would think during this time where we're all kind of shut in right now, I would really be pushing my computer, like I'm going to play all this, like all the new releases and shit, and like I'm buying those games. Like I bought Resident Evil 3 and I just finished up Doom, but I'm still like, I'm playing shit that came out like 10 years ago, if not further. Like I just I just bought the Mass Effect trilogy again. Like basically I'm going to take this whole time where the world's dying to remind myself what it was like to be, 15 years old.
Well, that might be the smart thing, though. You'll play all these things that we kind of liked, and you'll see like their flaws, and you'll be like, yeah, it's probably good that the world's dying off. Like,
that's a really depressing outlook. I think it's more depressing that like nothing can fulfill me that came out within the last year. Like,
well, yeah,
which isn't true. There's a lot of great games that have come out, but
last stuff that I've been playing is I had purchased Yakuza, Kiwami, basically the
remake of 1, yeah.
Right. And 2 I bought, but of course you can only play 1 at a time. But so I've been playing that. So same deal. I mean, that's a newer remake, but it's of an older game.
No, what's really hooked me now is City Skylines, which if you don't know is like a SimCity game. And I'm surprised how it's kind of latched me the last couple weeks. But
you know what? That's a game that I had wanted for so long. It was on my wish list, and I finally bought it and started playing it. I'm like, yep, not for me.
That's how it happened to me. I bought it a few years ago, and I was like, knowing it was a mistake, I was like, I'm never gonna play this. And I played it. I booted it up to make sure it worked. I was like, yeah, everything works. And then basically uninstalled it shortly after that. And now I'm totally into it. And there's something about building the city up and just, you lose hours quick.
That's the thing. It is one of those games where it's like, well, I just need to now I need to get my hospital infrastructure in place. So I'll do that real quick. And you do that. And then you're like,
well, there's something to be said. I think that game's a lot more fun if you're someone like me who is very just playing, like randomly dropping shit, like I'm not trying to make the most efficient city possible. I'm just like, well, shit, where can I put a hospital? Well, probably by a bridge next to running water isn't the best idea, but next to the sewage treatment plant, but I'm out of room.
I think that's the greatest idea. I mean, it's just smart business.
IVs of pure shit.
Have to keep coming back. Yeah.
But yeah, that is the thing about this like sort of pandemic we're in, is like right now, just trying to find a place to like place all my industry shit. Everybody complains about it. So it's like, well, I need factories, guys. Like, how do you think this city runs? But all these residents are just bitching like, ugh, I feel sick. And we're dealing with coronavirus. So I'm like, you don't know what the fuck sick is. Demolish house. You know, like, get the fuck out of my town.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, it gives you a taste of what it's like to be a politician. And it's amazing because it's terrible.
But there is there's no free healthcare button, and that's pissing me off quite a bit, because that would be the first thing I do. Vote for me, Ben. Ben every year, not just 2020. Vote. Go to the election ballots and write in Ben for president, no matter what the election's for.
That would be a great bumper sticker too. Just Ben every year.
Ben,
like, not
all
Ben
time.
in your last name. Just
We're not doing some FDR shit where it's like we need term limits. Like, no, fuck that. Me all the time, king of America. Anyway, so that was a random video game update, but we haven't talked in 2 weeks. So
2 weeks, yeah,
catching up. Yeah. But that's not what the non-essential podcast is about. You have things. You have a story to be told. I've got like a whole
folder full of different like historical topics and like interesting things, but they're not like, they're just like links to info that still needs to be compiled into a show. And that seemed like way too much work. Like,
yeah.
I can't complain with all that's going on because my life has been affected way less than a lot of people. I'm still, working, still getting my normal paychecks, and we're healthy, and yeah, we're kind of shut in, but we have a 8-month-old. We were kind of shut in.
You weren't like out partying anyway.
Right.
That would have been fucking great. You and your baby daughter at spring break in those interviews. Just like just you chugging beer.
Ain't gonna be no scaredy bitch about.
I ain't raising her to
virus.
I ain't raising her to be no chicken shit.
And then the GoFundMe for her funeral 6 weeks later. But
and then the GoFundMe for your funeral.
But so anyway, I have all those topics, but with everything going on, it was very hard to come up with motivation to write about them because.
So yeah, we turn to our beloved internet community of fucking sometimes god awful horror stories. Jesus.
Yeah, creepypasta. Basically, it was from the creepypasta wiki, but this is kind of in their. This is more of a cryptid, like the mythical creature type creepypasta story. And it's called "The Fishing Trip" by Shadow Swimmer 77.
Thank you.
So that's what.
I love usernames so fucking much.
Yeah.
Shadow Swimmer, Dark Paddler.
Well, I'm curious. It probably isn't connected, but there's a book called Shadow Divers, and I think I've talked about it a little bit on the show. Probably not too much because it's a topic I may cover at some point. But about these deep sea divers, like really they're pushing the boundaries of deep sea diving, like how far you can free dive as a human, because there's only a certain depth you can go up to. That discovered a submarine off the American coast that it was a Nazi sub that there was no record of. Nobody knew it was there. They didn't know what sub it was. At first, they weren't sure it was a Nazi sub, although it was because of the shape. They would pretty quickly, they were convinced. But the book's called Shadow Divers. And it's an awesome book if you're interested in that kind of nonfiction stuff. So I wonder, it's like it could be something to do with that, but Shadow Divers is a little bit less weird than Shadow Swimmer.
There's just something really mild about it, but trying to make it dark, or it's deep inner tubing. My guess is he was
I say he or she. I always assume he. That's my fault. That's a bad habit. But they were probably on their high school swimming team, so they're the swimmer. But they wanted to sound dark and cool, so it's Shadow Swimmer.
Yeah,
77 because. Like we said last week, there's 76 other shadows.
I mean, I'm not going to give, I'm giving them shit, but I've had my share of bad usernames. I still
Mine's
do.
Phaser, so I'm not, again,
I went
it's
by,
the same as, I guess, so we haven't given this disclaimer in the last couple times, so I guess we can again too. But it's the same vein as the fact that we're not doing these stories to make fun of these people as bad writers. Although we will be making fun of the
writing. Yeah.
But
it's
same
more,
thing with the name. I'm not making fun of your username. I'm laughing at it, but in the way that it's like, yeah, we're all in the same boat here.
Right. Like I went by Shadow Bullet. Like the first username I had when I first started doing shit online. And that was what I used for like 5 years.
Like a discreet personal pleasure product.
It was, that could work too. It was like, I was like drawing comics and shit at the time. So that was like basically my equivalent of Spawn. And it sucked. It was just as bad as Spawn. But yeah, this isn't about, mocking people for their writing talents. It's more about laughing at the fact that we all write bad shit, and bad writing is part of the process, but it's also a really hilarious step in like getting better as a writer. So yeah.
So that's where we're at. Okay. Hold the head steady, Mr. Walker. I don't want to cock this up. So that first sentence is what got me on this story. Swelling waves cause the ship to roll beneath my feet as I do my best to follow Professor Ulick's order. Unfortunately, the ox is not cooperating. It pulls jerkingly against the rope, securely fastened to the ring through its nose, while emitting low panicked bellows, its eyes rolling wildly in their sockets.
Just imagining googly eyes.
I know. Like, I get what they mean, but yeah, when you say rolling in their sockets, it feels like it's just
these two guys in a storm with like a stuffed animal, like, hold her steady.
Pinned in the makeshift stable below deck, there's nowhere for it to run, even if it wasn't currently on a vessel somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and several hundred miles from the nearest thing resembling land. Crafty way to sneak in like where this setting is. Something has the beast terrified, although it could simply be sense the intentions of the striking woman standing in front of it with an air gun. For fuck's sake, Charlie, I know you can pull a rope tighter than that. I've got the burns on my wrists to prove it. Ooh. I flash Helen a glare as I struggle with the rope, my cheeks flushing bright red with equal parts anger and embarrassment.
I don't want anyone to know we fucked, goddammit. Shut up.
She responds with a wicked grin. It's no secret that we're sleeping together. That's how I was conned into going on this little cruise after all. But I still don't feel the need to blatantly parade that fact around in front of her father.
Anybody who's using, like, bondage shit and stuff is like, you're not that bashful. Shut up. Like, she's like,
I don't know. I could see it where, like, maybe he is, like, he's into it, but he's, like, new to it, and she's the one that's, like, the, like, experienced whatever. But the implication that she's got rope burns on her wrists, I think her father would have seen that already and been like, hey, that's weird.
I doubt it. Like, at a certain point, like, if you saw some wounds on your daughter or something, you wouldn't immediately be like, has my shipmate been fucking you?
I don't know. Maybe if they're rope burn, I don't know. I guess kids always come up with the darndest excuses, right? But anyway, that's where this story really had me hooked. Is we're already into bondage.
Yeah, we're already into somebody's, This is a different site. This isn't creepypasta at all. Pleasure pasta.
Sexypasta.com, yeah. Dr. Renard Ulick is a visiting professor out of Oslo, whose expertise is in cryptozoology. I hadn't realized such a degree even existed, probably because it doesn't. But apparently, I'm not as informed as I thought. The Loch Ness Monster, the Wendigo, the Tatzelworm. Ulick had dedicated years of his life to studying and cataloging the stories and legends of these and dozens of other fantastic creatures.
Poor guy.
Going so far as to conduct extensive field research into the claims of their existence.
Just looking for anything called, like, the Tatzelworm. Like, I'm sorry. That's not a cool
the first
thing.
two I heard of.
It could be a goddamn, fucking werewolf, and that still sounds shitty. Like, to dedicate your life to.
Well, I like that going so far as to doing like studies into these things. And like you just said that he was a cryptozoologist. That's what the ologist part infers. But whatever.
But you need to know.
Due to his lean, sharp features, surprisingly cunning intellect, and, most probably, his parents' choice of names, Oleg had been dubbed the Fox after the French fable in pretty much every circle he inhabits. So I assume that Renard has some, I don't know, something to do with a fox. I was not aware of that. His daughter Helen serves as his primary research assistant, and as such is accompanying him for the duration of his stay at Pocatonic University, where I'm studying for my doctorate in engineering.
My doctorate in crypto fishing.
Crypto engineering. It's where we study mythical machines. Her raven black hair and oddly shaped eyes. That's a weird descriptor. Steel gray flecked with purple give her an exotic, if decidedly un-Nordic appearance.
This guy's thinking way too much about it.
Yeah.
Like that is not how I look and describe women. It's like, surprisingly un-Nordic.
Still, she has the muscle,
but with a smooth aroma that goes down smooth every morning.
Kind of the Swedish aroma, so. Still, she has this muscle tone of an Olympic gymnast, and at 5'10", could easily be imagined falling into the ranks of the fabled Valkyrie. So this, I am going to assume at this point that this is a guy, although again, it's not safe, but whoever they are, they seem to have a thing for Nordic women. I first saw her at a social
She's not very
mixer.
Nordic, but she could be a Nordic god.
Nordic god. It's the Nordic body archetype, that you pick if you were playing Conan Exiles on PC. Oh.
Imagine the sliders moved all the way up.
All the way to Nordic. Despite her un-Nordic eyes that were oddly shaped. I first saw her at a social mixer last fall and was immediately taken. Imagine my shock when my lame attempts to talk to her were accepted and even encouraged. Well, that's identifiable. Anytime a woman, responds to something I say instead of just, disgustedly walking away, it's like, wow, it's weird that happened.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, we were...
I don't think anyone would pick that up from this show, that the two dudes on it have incredibly low self-esteem.
So he was shocked that his attempts to talk to her worked. Yet 2 weeks later, we were fucking like it was going out of style. I love that phrase.
I love the jump in confidence.
Yeah.
That's. I can't believe she would talk to me. Now I fuck her crazy. How do you? Yeah, this is just a porn story. This is porn penne.
I think it's going to be. That's why I picked it.
Awkward. All right. Well, see you next week. I'll let Steve finish up here.
But it's just... Our relationship stayed on that course for about 6 months when she informed me that she would be going with her father for an extended trip during the summer as part of his research. Would I like to accompany them? The fact that she'd been naked when she asked probably helped guide my decision. Yeah, it tends to do
let's
that.
get your father in on this. Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
A whole summer on a small boat with just you, me, and your dad?
And your dad looming. Sounds like fun.
That's how I came to be wrangling a terrified ox on a Korean-manned fishing boat 600 miles off the Japanese coast. Wrapping the rope more firmly around my hands, I brace my foot against the bulkhead and pull as hard as I can, momentarily arresting the panicked animal's movement. Hit it! Jesus, hit it now! Helen professionally places the airgun between the ox's eyes and smoothly depresses the trigger, punching a tiny metal rod through its skin and bone and into the creature's brain. Its eyes roll back in its skull, and its slack tongue rolls out of its mouth before the ox collapses to its knees and finally slumps to the floor on its side. So she's basically the guy from No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. How'd these
Good
rope
job,
burns get on your
friendo.
neck?
I disentangle myself from the rope, angry red depressions crisscrossing my hands and up my arms, and wipe the sweat from my forehead. I don't know that you have to, like, violently pull an ox rope tight before you, like, put the air gun to its head and pull the trigger, because if you keep it calm, you just do it. It wouldn't know what's coming.
Yeah, I would. Well, believe me. Animals know when, you know.
And their self-defense is to start rolling their eyes in their socket. Like,
yeah, going crazy like Roger Rabbit.
Christ, I've never done this before, but, I mean, don't they usually use a cattle prod or something to stun these guys first? The fox gives me a pinched look, not panicked.
What's a pinched look?
I don't know.
It was like his face just like...
Yeah, it squeezes in. He had bitten into a lemon right before.
It's a very anime expression.
In your typical slaughterhouse, yes, Mr. Walker. But I've found it best to avoid using electricity whenever possible in these matters. There can be unforeseen complications. Besides,
I don't think there's a complication of, like, you know, electricity
well, I
can
don't
fuck
think a
you
cattle
up.
prod stuns a cattle. It
stuns a human for sure.
Yeah, true. But my understanding has always been that you're just kind of trying to encourage it to, like, go a certain direction. It's like pricking it with a thorn or something, you know. It's
maybe
just an
this
unpleasant.
is, you know, more writer fucking showmanship here, where he's just trying to be, look how much I know about cattle prods and shit. And it's like, well,
Besides, certain research suggests the chemicals released in the brain due to the intense fear serve as something of an intoxicating marinade for the predatory creatures. All the better for our purposes here. Aha, they're not going to eat the ox, the creature is.
this is going to end with them hunting this dude. Like, this is just the most dangerous game.
Stunning the beast beforehand could rob us of a potential advantage. Helen, if you would, please. Exchanging her airgun for an enormous bone saw, Helen enters the pen and begins working on the dead ox's neck. The metal teeth slide through the muscle and tissue as Helen manipulates the saw as smoothly as a lumberjack. I guess that's somebody that operates a saw smoothly. It catches briefly.
In fact, the only one. She operated the saw as smoothly as Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Oh, I can't even do it.
That was pretty good.
It catches briefly when it hits vertebrae, but she pulls the blade free and with a sickening cracking noise of snapping bone before repositioning and continuing her grisly work. I feel my gorge rise at the base of my throat.
Oh, I hate that feeling. So embarrassing.
Glance down, and I like that I feel my gorge. It's not like a gorge. It's not like I feel a lump, but it's like for a second, if I feel my gorge rise, I thought he was getting like an erection, and then he said at the base of his throat. So maybe he's just like super, like well endowed.
Yeah, if your gorge raises for more than 4 hours,
if your gorge pokes you in your throat, your own, whatever. I'm not going to go there. I glance down at the floor only to leap away from the slowly growing pool of blood that has spread from the pin and now threatens to soak my boots. I hastily move away from the danger zone and turn my eye... Moving from the... Oh. Yeah. And turn my eyes from the butchery, desperately wishing I could turn off the squelching sounds as easily. You could walk away.
Not from the danger zone.
This is like the most 30-minute TV show line ever coming up next here. So, Doc, tell me again exactly what we're doing here. Like, by this point, he says they're hundreds of miles in the middle of the ocean, like far from any land. And it's like, okay, now that we're out here, can you recap Give me a synopsis of what.
Now that we killed a thing, can you tell me what this is all about?
But that's exactly, I mean, cartoons do it. Family Guy loves to do it and like make fun of it because that's like how all these TV shows, like the character that should 1000% know what's going on is like, hey, can you remind me what's going on as a convenient narrative way? Whatever. Oleg sighs, much like we just did. As I've explained, Mr. Walker, we are in search of Jormungandr.
I'm reading along and I got to that name and I'm like, I can't wait for this.
I think I did. The World Serpent. I met him playing God of War, by the way.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is probably a pretty futile... Like, God, why didn't anyone think to give it just like a fucking ox? You know, then we would find it.
How many ox do you have in the middle of this sea? Nobody had one. They're like, damn it, I left the ox at home. Most likely it and the creature known as Leviathan in Christian. Oh, yeah. It and the creature known as Leviathan in Christian tradition are one and the same. Oh, good. I was worried that they were two different serpents. Legend has it the beast is so large it can encircle the world to the point of holding its own tail in its mouth, much like your gorge in your throat. Although that is likely an exaggeration. Likely. According to Norse mythology, when Jormungandr...
If you want to change that out for World Serpent every time.
No, I don't.
You can't... I'm just saying, like, it's getting longer every time you try to say it.
Yeah, I think it's Jormungandr. You just got to end it like the Swedish. When it releases its tail, it will inflate Ragnarok, or initiate.
It'll
inflate. This is getting too hard to read because I'm laughing too hard.
Inflating Ragnarok is like an inflamed prostate. That's what they call it.
If your Ragnarok's inflamed. During the final battle, the serpent will confront its father, Loki's hated enemy Thor. That seemed like an extra step that didn't need to be in there. Resulting in the mutual destruction. They're mutual. All of my research indicates the creature's head will be located somewhere in this vicinity, near the Mariana Trench. I always want to say Marinara Trench, which is something that you can get at Olive Garden.
That's something I can't believe they haven't already done at like Olive Garden.
Yeah. For a limited time, order the Marinara Trench.
That would be a pretty cool fucking setup, though. Like,
it's a way better name than bottomless pasta dish bowls or whatever they call it. Like,
well, just like a fucking goddamn like trench of breadsticks in the middle of the table. With like
filled with like marinara,
marinara
like
in the middle,
marinara.
Like just a bridge of breadsticks over this fucking pool of marinara. All that sauce would get wasted. It's actually a terrible idea, but
yeah, you'd pick up one breadstick and it would like all As the lowest point on the planet and one of the few environments not fully explored by humans, it's the most likely location a creature that large could remain relatively undetected. And it's a fan of ox roast, huh? Oleg glares at me. Yes.
Yes, goddammit. Shut up.
I wish it just ended at yes, like this rest of this paragraph's gone.
He asked literally what I'm thinking, which is like, how the fuck do you know it likes ox? Like, this is no better than like fucking leaving a donut on a tree branch for Bigfoot. Like,
which people insist works.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the most commonly artistically rendered stories, Thor managed to accidentally catch the World Serpent on his hook, which he baited with an ox head. He attempted to kill the serpent with his hammer. I should know how to say that because it's in the Avengers, but I don't know. Thor's hammer, we'll say.
Like all this Norse shit that's like in the Marvel universe and like the games we play, you would think we know how to pronounce any of this, but...
Well, in my defense, I still haven't watched Endgame, so that shows you how much of a Marvel fan I am.
In my defense, an M and a J don't go together. You shouldn't have a word like that. And same with D and R.
Yeah.
Unless it's like to make a dr sound.
But oaf that he was, managed to let the world serpent escape. We are attempting to recreate this event. But Professor, what exactly are you planning to do if you actually manage to catch this thing? Finished. I hope that's the professor. Like, not...
Conversation over.
Finished. That's how I'm going to start ending conversations with people, too. Just
yeah, that's
finished.
How I hang up on people at work now.
Beaming, Helen hefts a severed ox head on her shoulder. Her hands and face are splattered with crimson, and a slow trickle of blood continues to seep from the stump of the creature's neck and drip on the floor. Her strange, speckled eyes are alight with excitement and anticipation, and not a single sign of worry about pathogenic diseases. Excellent, my dear. Let's get our bait up on the main deck. Ignoring my question, the fox turns and leads the way up the stairs, Helen following closely, carrying her macabre prize. I stay a little behind and glance back at the pin. The ox's body remains slumped where it fell, I would hope. The muscles
it
of the
raises
legs...
up on its own.
It says, fuck this, I'm going back to my bunk.
I am the world
Muscles
ox.
of its legs twitching and jerking ever so slightly as the onset of rigor mortis slowly takes hold. I involuntarily shudder, which I hear that phrase all the time, involuntarily shudder, but do you ever, like, voluntarily shudder? Like,
yeah, when I'm on the dance floor, gigging.
That's true. And turn after the professor and his daughter. Once on deck, I move to the fore of the ship, where Ulrich and Helen are already baiting an enormous meat hook with the ox head and still dripping blood and ichor.
If I saw people doing this, like, imagine just like a normal fishing boat goes by and just sees these people like stabbing a fucking ox head onto a cartoon fucking fish hook.
Hey, what you doing there? We're trying out for wicked tuna. I gotcha.
What are you fishing for? Yeah, we just go after marlin, basically, but okay.
Yeah, I've never caught us a world serpent here, but good luck to you, fellas.
Yormager, is that like kind of some sort of trout?
So what do we do now, Professor? I ask. The fox smiles. Now we wait. You don't put the bait in the...
No,
I did say. I skipped that sentence.
He puts his hand up the ox's head and uses it as a puppet to tell me, now we wait.
Come up here, serpent. I am a tasty ox head. Yum, yum, yum. And wait we do. For weeks, the seas are calm. That's very... They did a good job to keep an ox head on a hook for weeks in the water, because normally it would just kind of decay and fall off.
Yeah. Unless that's the plan. There's a lot about this I don't understand. Maybe it needs to be like fucking rotten and eaten away. But
true. Every few days we repeat the exercise. Oh, I get it. Say I need to just shut the fuck up and read a story. Pete with another terrified ox as the sea waters rapidly rots the heads to a state where I doubt even a monster would find them appetizing. By the fifth time, I find I have become quite proficient with my duties. I do not know if I am pleased by this. It's
but
good
the
that it
sex
only
is
took
amazing.
One day is soon lost in the next, with little to distinguish them other than the occasional morning slaughter. So now he's just describing all of our day-to-day, like, pandemic lives.
Right.
Our Korean crew tends to the needs of the ship and generally keeps to themselves, leaving us to our own devices. Well, no shit, you're three weirdos cutting ox heads off every few days and lowering them into the sea. They don't want to know. Like, I wouldn't want to hang out with you either. My few brief encounters with individual sailors convey they are a surly lot. Something tells me, I almost said slutty lot. What?
They're a sexy lot.
Or sultry, yeah. Something tells me they feel very little goodwill towards us. It's obvious our strange work frightens them. Well, no shit. And it's likely only the fact that Oleg is paying them double their normally rate that they are out here at all. Still, money only goes so far. No, it doesn't. And I wondered, not for the first time, if the Fox has been as transparent with his plans to the captain and crew as he has been with me. But he doesn't seem to be particularly transparent with his plans to him either.
No,
Whatever.
he tells them everything up until finished, and then
Finished.
and then they're done.
I hope that's the last word of the story.
I hope the last word is him turning to the camera and being like, "Women, am I right, fellas?" And then just like the fucking world serpent destroys them.
It's just as well that the sailors mind their business, as Oleg is adamant only he and Helen operate our makeshift fishing lure. This makes for an extremely long days for both of them, and yet it's only due to necessity that he even reluctantly allows me to participate in the preparation of our grotesque bait. As for myself, the biggest threat to contend with is the growing boredom. Each day, the merciless sun beats down upon the deck out of our cloudless sky. The sea is calm and clear as glass. This far out there... I'm sorry, I'm distracting myself with the thought of, like, clear, calm seas in the middle of the Pacific. I don't know how common that is.
Wait,
This
they're in
far
the
out there-
Pacific?
Yeah.
Is that where the trench is?
That's a good question.
I thought the Mariana Trench was in the Atlantic.
I think you're right. Maybe Google that while I keep reading, because as soon as you said it, I think you're right, but they did say the Pacific off the coast of Japan.
I mean, I could
But
be
it is
wrong. I
fiction.
haven't learned. I learned about this in the ocean, in
I
oceanography,
picture
like
it
years
in the-
ago. Okay, yeah, it is in the Pacific.
Huh.
All right.
Well, we're both wrong. How about that?
No, I just
First time ever.
I'm okay with that.
Each day, the merciless sun beats down upon the deck of a cloudless sky as seas calm as clear as glass. This far out there is not even birds to watch, and other than the occasional dark spot on the horizon, the existence of land is only a steady, fading memory. Oleg and Helen are completely absorbed in their work and in no mood to socialize. So he's not even getting any on this trip. That sucks. That's the whole reason he came out.
Yeah. Because he's a fucking idiot, and he's like, "Oh, no, you're naked, okay."
One evening, in desperation, I consider trying to sit in on the sailors' nightly card game to break up the monotony. But the malicious looks I receive as I start towards the group send me hastily retreating to my cabin below. I kind of love that like mental image of this like nerdy like.
It's like, dude, I
college
promise
guy.
you, they would love nothing more than to take a white guy's money. Like,
Right.
sit down at the table, you'll be fine.
Lying there, feeling the gentle shifting of the ship beneath me and bored almost to tears, I wonder if I can convince the fox to let me cut off the next ox's head.
Well, that was a
That's
jump.
some boredom there. Yeah, you go from almost puking to being like, let me have a
It's
try at it.
disgusting, but you know what? I think I have it in me.
Gradually, the mood of our little research party grows increasingly tense and prickly, mirroring the crew. Tempers are short, and more than once, innocent remarks erupt into full-out arguments. Although we share a bunk, Helen has stopped sleeping with me, the stress of the voyage tempering our previously insatiable libidos. Lying beside her during the few hours we try to rest, I feel the gentle rise and fall of her breathing under my arm and wonder what this trip will ultimately mean for our relationship. I don't know why this is all funny to me, but it is.
It's just like, because it's so fucking mundane.
Eh.
But it's like, meanwhile, we're trying to find a Norse, like, celestial figure.
Our supply of oxen is quickly dwindling. If we don't find the creature soon, we will be forced to turn back empty-handed or start cutting off crew members' heads. The question... I added that, by the way.
Or I'll have to kill people.
The question of what to do if we manage to actually hook the beast still remains ominously unanswered, and at this point I am hoping that we fail in our search.
You did fail.
I like that he is
This
so
already
willing
a
to believe
failure.
that this creature actually exists, because me the whole time would be like, well, no shit, we haven't caught anything. You're trying to catch a fucking giant world snake. Like, it's not there.
Yeah. I know, I'm sure it lives off of fucking ox heads. Something that
It just
big.
happened to fall off
Yeah.
you know, there's enough freighters every now and then they drop ox head and it sustains it.
Well, like, why not work your way up to, like, the fucking, you know, world serpent? Like, try to find Loch Ness Monster. Like, find old Nessie, See if you can find something that
Well,
big.
it said that he already spent years studying Nessie, and he couldn't find him. So what do you do? I do admire this guy. It's like, fuck, I can't find a small creature. I'm going after the biggest one.
I can't find the Loch Ness Monster. That must mean something bigger ate it.
Tonight I wake to find myself alone. The spot in the bunk Helen usually occupies beside me still warm. She can't have been gone long. The ship seems to be rolling considerably more than normal, and I stumble across the cabin several times as I try to get dressed. Finally pulling on my boots, I go off in search of her and Oleg. When I reach the deck, I notice that the sky has turned completely dark, no light from the stars or moon alike. Storm clouds above seethe angrily, and the waves beneath respond in kind, rocking the boat more violently beneath my feet. The crew is gathered in a tight crowd off the side surrounding their cabin. I don't speak Korean, although I was going to just try to play cards with them somehow.
I mean, that's a universal language.
Yeah.
All you need to know is all in, and I've lost everything. So that's as far as your Korean needs to go.
Look over there, what's that? As you switch the cards out. But it's obvious they're arguing, and he is attempting to talk them down. Abruptly, one of the sailors steps forward and throws a haymaker, catching the captain in the jaw. He crumples to the deck, and a general melee breaks out around his fallen body.
How does a melee break out? They're all you'd think they would all just be kicking his ass.
Yeah, you'd think, unless it's like,
someone got shoved, and then it's cartoonish, hey, you don't push me.
That was rude, and then they throw a punch, and yeah. I like to think it's like that scene out of Red Dead 2. Scanning the deck, they all started to can together before. It takes me a few moments to locate Oleg and Helen near the crane. Seemingly oblivious to the weather and the battling seamen, the professor is standing at the rail, his gaze fixed on the churning waters, while his daughter works the controls. I shove my way through knots of fighting sailors and struggle to make my way to them as the ship continues heaving to and fro, causing me to stumble like a drunk. The wind has picked up and howls like a banshee, so that I have to shout to be heard when I finally reach Oleg. Not everything has to be a simile.
Sure it does.
I walk like a drunk as the wind howls like a banshee. I have to shout like a dude at a rock concert as I finally reach Oleg.
Wind howls like a banshee. I walk like an Egyptian to Oleg.
I point that out because that's more a note to myself than it is to this person who will never know that we're reading their story. Because I tend to do that a lot too.
Yeah.
Professor, it's not safe here. We have to get back below deck. Freezing rain erupts from the heavens, the screaming winds whipping the drops against my face so hard they sting. Lightning bolts the size of houses. I didn't know lightning bolts could have sizes. There's usually a bolt-sized.
What?
Flash down from the sky.
What do you mean lightning doesn't... lightning strikes different lengths.
Yeah, but then what's the size of a house? A house is kind of more of a measurement of volume, I would think.
Well,
I don't know.
It means the height of a house. So, actually, in the grand scale of lightning, that's not a very tall lightning bolt at all. So.
Yeah. Tiny lightning bolts flash down from the sky, accompanied by peals of... I almost said pearls of thunder, and then I was going to be really fucking confused, what this guy thinks a thunderstorm is. Peals of thunder, so loud they make my head ring. Professor! I grab the man by the shoulder and spin him around, only to fall back in shock. The man facing me bears a resemblance to Oleg, certainly, but only just. He's younger, his face holding an agelessness that makes him seem paradoxically youthful and ancient in equal amounts. His eyes are alight with the glow of madness, his mouth open in a wolfish grin. Too late, he's too late to stop me now. What? Too late, he's too late to stop me now, he giggles like a lunatic. We have found it. Shrieking, he loves peels of stuff.
I was going to give him props for using peels earlier, but
but now he's over it. It was on his word of the day calendar the day he wrote this story.
Well, there's little achievements you can unlock when you write stories, so it's use peels 5 times.
Shrieking peals of laughter accompany him, and I turn to where Helen was operating the controls. Gone is my stunning Valkyrie, replaced with a hideous creature that I'd been fucking like it's going out of style for the last couple months. Half of her body is covered in pale, perfect skin. The other, rotting lumps of flesh, the same purplish hue as the flecks in her eyes. Her cackles are lost as the wind whips itself into even greater fury. The ship rocking so hard I'm terrified we will capsize at any moment.
I've never been more turned on.
What did he call it before? My gorge?
My gorge. My gorge is exploding.
This time my gorge poked me in the eye. I was so turned on. The boat is thrashing too hard for me to even contemplate trying to make it back to the hold. Just as I have this thought, an enormous wave crashes over the deck, sweeping several sailors over the side. Their screams are quickly drowned by the raging storm, and they disappear beneath the waves. I think, lucky them. I spy a coil of rope tumbling across the deck. Desperately grabbing it, I manage to lash myself between two cargo brackets. Helen was right. I pull the ropes very tight. Okay, good callback, I guess. Temporarily secure, I look around. Astonishingly, the man who was Oleg has jumped upon the bow, deftly riding the ship like an enraged bronco. Raising his arms towards the screaming heavens, he howls into the storm. Come, brother, meet your doom. I'm picturing Lieutenant Dan at this point. With that, the largest wave yet slowly tilts the ship so that it is riding almost completely on its side. From where I'm lashed to the deck, I am now practically vertical and have a perfect view of the rolling waters disappearing far off into the horizon. In that moment, my mind breaks. I nearly shit myself. I'm adding that just in case.
Just in case he won't.
From out of the sea protrude miles and miles of glistening serpentine coils. The scales are the dull color of seaweed, encrusted with barnacles and all matter of ocean life. An enormous head the size of a mountain erupts from the depths. Blind white eyes fixed upon the cavernous mouth, glistening with dozens of rows of fangs. Opening its great maw wide, Leviathan lets loose its battle cry. Its roar so loud I feel my eardrums shatter in my skull. In the clouds high above, I barely make out the tiny figure of a man at the heart of the storm. Bolts of lightning seem to coalesce around him, filling him with their impossible power. Shining like the sun, the figure streaks out of the sky like a comet, flying directly at the head of the serpent. The beast rears up to meet its foe, and on impact, the world is enveloped in an incredible blast of white light, brighter than the core of an atomic bomb. The stress of heaving sea is finally too much, and I feel the ship shatter beneath me. Slowly, the two broken halves descend into the seething waves. I struggle against the ropes securing me to the deck, but the wet knot slips in my fingers, the restraints that were only moments ago my salvation becoming my doom in the merest instant. Flailing about for something that I might use to cut the ropes, my fingers grasp only salt water. My frustrated scream is lost in the peals of thunder as the vicious battle carries on. As the storm continues to rage, the surety of my fate becomes clear. I relax as the raging waters roll over me, ultimately accepting the inevitable of what is to come. I breathe in deeply, welcoming the water into my lungs, my only thought that I may be one of the lucky ones. Soon, even that thought is lost as I sink deeper, my mind black as the seas that embrace me. Down, down into the depths I fall, lost to the world of men and gods and monsters. Finished.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah.
Like I see what he was going for, but it seemed kind of like there was so much build up, and then to rush the ending like that, like
it kind of worked out like I fear a lot of my topics for the show are going to. When it's like you find something and you're like, oh, this particular event seems really fun and good to talk about. Then you realize it takes 30 seconds to describe it, and you're like, well, shit, I got to fill the page.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, there's a whole lot of nothing, and then it's like, oh, and then the thing attacked and I died.
Yeah, it's like, here's the setup for us going out on a ship, and then we were out there for months, and all that happened in those weeks or months or whatever is I stopped having sex, and I
started to want to cut ox heads off, which and I got bored. Would be like my natural impulse too. It's like, man, I'm not getting any more. I need to kill something.
I need to kill these people and these ox. So as long as if we get through all the bait, then like she'll have to fuck me.
Terrible joke warning in 3, 2, 1. It's like, I'm going to get some head one way or the other.
Fuck. It doesn't make it okay when you're like, bomb coming.
I disagree.
But there was some good material in there. It was just, like I said, it was just such a rushed conclusion. Like if you're gonna like do a fucking Ragnarok ending, then you got to build up to it. Like you can't just have like it was so out of nowhere to have like, oh, Oleg is he doesn't look right, and it didn't explain what the fuck happened to Helen, why she was a zombie. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it, but
it's exactly kind of what you expect out of a creepypasta, I guess.
Yeah,
like it.
That's the thing. Like sometimes the writing, he used peels too much, but you know.
Yeah, it really wasn't too bad. The story itself, you could tell, and that's the whole point of these things. And I don't know for a fact, but it's not like you sit down and you outline and you do all this and you do your revisions over and over again. Is that you sit down and you like knock out a story, and it very much reads like that. Like whoever wrote it doesn't seem like you said, like the worst writer.
Well, yeah, like I mean, there are some creepypastas out there where it's like, you know, it's like a 60-part series, and like the people writing it take it.
The dialogue goes back and forth so much you have no idea who's saying what or why. Like, this was at least it had the typical thing, and like I said, a lot of them are things that I am personally very bad at, like the way overuse of the word "like" to do like similes, where everything has to be like something else. Where sometimes you're best to just let the scene unfold. But
I think like more than anything, like some people, everybody starts writing at different levels and progresses at different paces. And I think, we laugh at like when the writing is just flat out like nonsensical or bad at points. But I think what most people are trying with creepypastas is like pacing and like hitting certain story beats and like overall story structure. And like if there was a lesson in this one, it's, like try to think of the arc of this story in like a dramatic sense and how much time you took on the build up, and then like the finale would just be like a line graph that was just like immediately it's done,
Yeah.
And you didn't really build to that point. Like you got the setup and then you plateaued and then you like dropped. You didn't like let the whole thing hit. That's my English teacher hat I'm putting on.
That is one of the hard parts about any kind of dramatic story, though, is because it's the pacing. Because obviously the climax and the ending, it's always shorter than the build-up.
But that's where, like editing comes in. And like if you have an outside editor, it helps a lot of writers to have somebody who will be like objective about like, okay, this whole, chunk, you don't need that. You do need to flesh out this part here. And this story, like I said, like, and that's what I think creepypastas are good for, besides just being entertaining. Like for just some shit you can find on the internet, you can spend a lot of time on these. For us, it's probably a third of our episodes at least. But I think like this isn't something you need to waste time editing on and stuff. Like, just, spit the idea out, see what happens. It's kind of fun to write in that way where you're not really worrying about, the quality and stuff, but you also have to take from it like, okay, what didn't work, as I was kind of, just free flowing as I wrote it. And for this, it's totally just it's the pacing is all over the place. The only thing I got from this is like the guy gets bored really easily, loved sex, and now he's dead.
Which is really one of the classic literature's like story compositions, is a guy lets sex lead him to his doom. I mean,
yeah, but he didn't even, He didn't even do that. Like, he was... Like, the moment they stopped, like, banging and shit, I'd be like, you know what, I'm taking
off the boat and try to swim to shore.
I'm stealing one of these ox, and he'll be my best friend, and we're going to get out of here together.
Hey, Helen, ox, they can swim, right?
Yeah, the crew didn't want to be there. Just go up to the crew and be like, wait, whatever he's paying you, I'll triple it to push him off the boat, and we get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
Better yet, if some girl asks you if you want to spend the summer at sea searching for the world serpent with her father, say no. It doesn't matter what clothes she's wearing or not wearing when she asks.
I mean, you say yes every time. Like, at least I do. That's the sad thing, is I would totally do what this guy did.
Even after reading the story,
yeah,
you could realize that the events are unfolding exactly as the story.
What the fuck? Oh, shit, I'm gonna die from the fucking flu? Fuck that. I'd rather, plummet to the bottom from some fucking nightmarish Nordic horror. All
you need to do is keep a utility knife handy, and then he could have cut himself loose, and then I'm sure he would have survived out at sea with no ship.
I just need a sultry Valkyrie to come whisk me away and then bury me in the fucking Mariana Trench.
Sultry Valkyrie is going to be my band name, by the way, and people will be so fucking disappointed when they show up and they see me on stage. They're like, what the fuck? That's a short, fat guy.
Hey, it's more middle-aged white dudes. Damn it.
He can't even play an instrument. What the hell?
You wouldn't be the first. Anyway.
Thank you, Chicago. This one's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Dude.
I don't know why, but in my head it started playing Another One Bites the Dust.
Same song.
Do. But yeah, thank you for listening hopefully we're back, and who knows? It's week to week with computers, so
computers and plague, we could
plague, and anything could happen.
Right.
Including a world serpent attack, apparently. Anyway, see you next week. Bye.
Doodle-doo.
Bye. I don't know why I wave when I say goodbye.